Only weeks ago, Max Verstappen himself admitted he might not win again this season. Red Bull looked broken, McLaren unstoppable, and the Dutchman's dominance a fading memory. Yet in Italy, on the hallowed tarmac of Monza, Verstappen roared back with a display so commanding that fans and rivals alike were left stunned. But the question nobody can ignore is this: how did Red Bull go from being outclassed, outpaced, and written off to rewriting the record books at one of Formula One's most unforgiving tracks? The answer lies not just in raw speed, but in a quiet technical revolution happening under the skin of the RB21. If you want to understand how this single victory could mark the beginning of Red Bull's resurgence and why it matters for the entire championship fight, make sure you're subscribed, because what we're about to uncover might just change how you see Formula One's balance of power in 2025. Red Bull's return to dominance at Monza wasn't just another Max Verstappen masterclass. It was the culmination of months of quiet engineering battles, political shifts inside the team, and a bold gamble on technology that could have easily failed. To understand why this victory felt so shocking, we have to look back at where Red Bull was just a year ago. At the 2024 Italian Grand Prix, Verstappen could only qualify 7th and limped home in 6th place. The RB20 looked unbalanced, slow in a straight line, and fragile in race condition. For a driver who once seemed untouchable, it was a wake-up call. McLaren, meanwhile, were relentless, chipping away at Red Bull's lead with every race. The atmosphere inside Milton Keynes was tense. The dominant empire of 2021-2024 suddenly looked vulnerable, even broken. Fast forward to 2025, and things didn't start much better. Verstappen openly admitted earlier in the season that he might not win again this year. That kind of statement from a four-time world champion tells you everything about how frustrated and lost Red Bull felt. Yet at Monza, Verstappen not only won, he obliterated the field, finishing 19 seconds ahead of the McLarens, who had been the gold standard all season. And he did it while breaking records. The fastest average speed for a pole position in Formula One history, and one of the shortest race durations ever recorded. The question then is obvious. What changed? How did Red Bull go from desperation to domination in the space of a few months? The answer lies in a piece of engineering that fans never see: the RB21's flaw. For months, Red Bull engineers struggled with a fundamental flaw. The car was unpredictable through mid-speed corners. Add front-end grip, and it would suddenly snap into oversteer. Dial it back, and Verstappen was stuck fighting understeer. Two weaknesses collided: a mechanical suspension that lacked flexibility, and an aerodynamics package that couldn't stabilize airflow when the load shifted. At most teams, solving this would require a complete suspension redesign, something that takes months, if not an entire season. Red Bull, however, chose a different path. Instead of overhauling the mechanical package, they went after airflow stability. The Monza floor upgrade was a radical rethinking of how the RB21 channels air through its ground effect tunnels. The goal wasn't to create more downforce, but to make the downforce more predictable. That stability changed everything. Suddenly, the RB21 had a much wider setup window. Engineers could play with ride heights and suspension stiffness without the car spiraling out of balance. Verstappen, for the first time this season, was able to run a stiffer suspension setup perfect for Monza's long straights and heavy braking zones, while still keeping confidence through the corners. The result was visible on track. In the opening stint, Verstappen consistently pulled 2 to 3 tenths per lap on Lando Norris. Even with tyre blistering starting to appear, the gap never fell below 5 seconds. And by the time he crossed the finish line, it was a rout. For Verstappen, the difference was so clear he described the car as finally behaving a little more normal. For months, he'd been wrestling with a machine that felt alien. At Monza, everything finally clicked. But engineering alone doesn't tell the whole story. The leadership shift from Christian Horner to Laurent Mekies has been just as influential. Horner's 2-decade reign built Red Bull into a powerhouse, but the cracks were starting to show. Under his watch, the team often experimented with extreme setups, chasing breakthroughs but wasting valuable practice time. Mekies has brought a calmer, more structured philosophy. He's reorganized departments, tightened simulator programs, and focused the team on understanding the RB21's limits quickly, instead of gambling on random solutions. The difference has been striking. Verstappen himself admitted that under Horner, Friday sessions often felt directionless. Under Mekies, they're purposeful. By the time qualifying arrives, the team already knows which direction to take. That new discipline has delivered results not just for Verstappen, but for Yuki Tsunoda, who has quietly reached Q3 in 2 of the last 4 races. Still, skeptics in the paddock remain unconvinced. Monza has always flattered cars with strong straight-line speed and stable high-speed balance traits Red Bull has traditionally excelled at. Was this simply the perfect track for the RB21, or proof that Red Bull has solved its deeper problems? The upcoming rounds will tell us more. Circuits like Singapore with endless low-speed corners, or Baku with its brutal mix of long straights and tight sections, will expose any lingering weaknesses. If Red Bull performs there, then the Monza upgrade wasn't just track-specific magic, it was the beginning of a genuine turnaround. There are also strategic questions. Verstappen doesn't necessarily need the fastest car everywhere. What he needs is a car that's, in his own words, sane enough to consistently challenge McLaren. If Red Bull can keep pressure on Norris and Piastri race after race, they keep the championship alive, forcing McLaren to take risks and possibly make mistakes. And that's exactly where Verstappen thrives, in the chaos of a long title fight. Make no mistake, though, Monza was more than just a win. It was a psychological reset for the team. After months of doubt and frustration, Red Bull proved to themselves and to the paddock that they can still innovate, still surprise, and still win big. For Laurent Mekies, it was vindication. For Max Verstappen, it was redemption. And for the rest of the grid, it was a warning shot. The empire may not be fully restored, but Red Bull has reminded everyone that it hasn't fallen yet. So here's the big question for you. Was Monza the beginning of Red Bull's resurgence, or just an anomaly on a track that suits their car perfectly? Can Max Verstappen mount a serious challenge against McLaren for the remainder of 2025? Or will the cracks resurface at circuits like Baku and Singapore? Let me know what you think in the comments, because this debate is far from over.